Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pathways to Knowledge. Each week, we try to bring you a show where we will educate you, try to help you out. My name is Barry Strom, and I'll be doing the channeling with our spirit guest tonight. Now, we're attempting to bring you information that will help you understand the true knowledge of the miracles of God, the ones that He's provided for everyone in their everyday lives. Now, tonight, we're going to be completing our celebration of Holy Week by bringing you the information about what really happened during and after the resurrection of Jesus. We'll begin by channeling with the Spirit who knows the most about the resurrection, Jesus himself. We will then speak with Paul, the Pharisee who saw the resurrected Jesus and became a great apostle. And our third spirit will be the disciple Thomas, also referred to as Doubting Thomas, because he didn't believe Jesus had returned. And we're going to have a final guest, which will be John, the brother of Jesus, who actually did not believe Jesus was special until he witnessed his return from the dead. Now, we will be bringing you Pathways to Knowledge at 6 p.m. Pacific time or 9 p.m. Eastern every Friday night. This is the same time as Connie and I brought you our Hello Heaven show, which we are no longer doing. We now have over 1,000 shows available on our YouTube channel, and they bring you information about all aspects of human evolution, the growth of religion through time, and some of our channeling history shows from the past have incredible information about history. Now, the resurrection of Jesus is the miracle that changed the world. The event is recorded in the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. The Gospels agree on the core event, namely the empty tomb and the discovery by the women, but they all differ in specific narratives. Before the writing of the four Gospels, the story of the death and resurrection was passed on by simply oral tradition or stories from memory for several decades. You may not realize it, but several generations passed before the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John were even written. Now, assuming Jesus was crucified in 33 AD, which is what we've learned from all our different shows, the Gospel of Mark was not written until around 70 AD, Matthew around 85 AD, Luke not until 90, and John was not written till 100 AD. By the time the Gospel of John was written, almost 70 years had passed, which was plenty of time for memories to fade or events to be exaggerated. So our goal tonight is to bring you the truth about the resurrection of Jesus. Our friend Elena is here. She is joining us, and she will be reading the questions for us. So, Elena, welcome back to Pathways to Knowledge.
Thank you. Hello, everyone, and how are you?
Good.
All right. So, as Barry said, we're going to start the channeling with the Spirit who knows the most about the resurrection, our Lord Jesus. Father, will you please tell our listeners what actually took place at the resurrection?
I'm truly glad to have this opportunity to make clear exactly what took place in that time. My body was truly placed in the tomb. The Roman soldiers would not let the women address cleansing my body and preparing it as it should have been prepared because they were very impatient. They were afraid that perhaps the followers of Jesus would attack them. So they wanted to seal the tomb to protect it from anything happening to it. I performed something as God that no one else could do. I had amazing energies available to me. I have energies that no individual can describe. And I knew that the most important part was of my life, my human life, was yet to come. Because it was only through proving that God had the energy and the ability to arise from the grave in both spirit and in body. I called upon the energies that were available to me, and my soul passed into heaven, and I had the abilities to recall the physical form of my body. So it's very complex, and there's no way that humans can understand it. But what is truly important is to know that I did arise from the grave in both body and soul. No one has ever done it, and no one else will ever do it. It is strictly something that only God had the abilities to do. So I hope that answers your question. There is no doubt that I did rise from the grave.
How many days was your body in the tomb before you resurrected?
Actually, the resurrection process began within probably one of your days. It was something very difficult, and it took this great amount of energy. So I really left the tomb probably 2 of your days before the women returned and realized that the tomb was empty.
Is it possible for you to describe how the event of your resurrection took place?
Not really, because as God, and Jesus was God incarnate. It was the physical form of God. As God, I have access to basically unlimited different types of energies. There are energies that I have access to that you have never heard of. And I actually transform my body into light. Today, I guess the closest comparison I could make is a hologram. But I had the ability to transform from a light being back to physical form. It is a process that there is no way that you can truly comprehend. But it is something that took place only through the dynamic energies of God, of which I possess.
Matthew describes a great earthquake. Were there any natural occurrences, such as an earthquake, associated with your resurrection?
There was a great energy. And perhaps when I physically transformed, there was an energy transference to the area surrounding the tomb. The energy was great, that it was similar to an earthquake. It was not a huge earthquake, but the earth did shake in that area when I transformed myself. And that is what is referring to. It is exaggerated in the gospel, but there was a shaking of the earth when I did perform my transformation.
Matthew describes an angel, and Mark describes a young man that tells the women that you have risen. Was there a spirit or an angel? And if so, what words were spoken to the women?
I did have my angel Gabriel appear to the women in the tomb. He did take human form, and he was in the form of a male, but a male with light as of that, with the form of an angel that the women would have been familiar with. Keep in mind that angels can transform into any shape. But I wanted them to know exactly what had taken place because the women were the start of a process. The women had to spread the word what had taken place. They were very worried about what had taken place. And it wasn't an immediate happening. They entered the tomb and there was no one there, only darkness. For a while, they talked to the soldiers. They looked at where they had lain my body, and they could see that the cloth was still there. They picked the cloth up and they folded it to take with them. Before they left, I had Gabriel come to them. So there was a period of great uncertainty and doubt before the angel appeared. Things did not all take place instantaneously. It was like this slow process that had to involve. In the beginning, the women were very worried. They thought the body was taken. They asked the soldiers. The soldiers accused them of taking the body. So there was this process. They went back in, folded the burial cloth, and then I had Gabriel appear to them so that there was no doubt what was taking place.
Who did you appear to first? Was it Mary Magdalene? And if so, why did you choose her for your first appearance?
Actually, my first appearance was to my wife. I wanted to go to her to let her know what had happened because she had no idea what was taking place. I was still in light form when I appeared to her. When I appeared to Mary, I was still in a transitional state. That is why I did not have her touch me in any way. It was a process. Not, as I say, not everything took place simultaneously as you might expect. But this process was taking place. I chose Mary because she had been one of my most devoted servants. She had truly shown her love for me in many ways. And she was, even though she had seen the angel, she had doubts. She thought it was a hallucination from her grief. I wanted to come to her and stabilize her, so to speak, so that when she carried out the words of what had taken place, that she would have all of the abilities to be understood.
You had mentioned that you wouldn't allow her to touch you because you were in transition. How long did the transition from the light to the incarnate take?
In your terms of time, it took probably 3 to 4 days. In the beginning, it was not necessary that anyone had the ability to touch me. So my form would be closer. One way to describe it is if you see a ghost in apparition form. It looks like it's in solid form, in solid mass, but it's not. It's an energy form. When I appeared to Mary, I was in that form. I could talk to her, and I could do many things that ghosts cannot do. But that would probably be the closest facsimile to what I could tell you about what took place.
In your other appearances, were you in complete physical form that you could drink and eat?
Absolutely. That was part of the true miracle of this whole process. I had the ability to advance, to either show myself as a light form or as a full physical form. I needed people to understand that I had returned from the grave in full physical form. I could talk, I could eat, I could have them touch me. But it took time, and there were different circumstances where I needed to appear in different types of forms.
Were there other appearances that were not recorded in the Gospels?
Yes. I appeared multiple times. The appearance with Paul is actual. I met with the disciples on several occasions. I met with a larger group of people so that I had more people that could testify that they had seen me. I met with my mother, my brother. I met with my wife. I did everything that I needed to do to lay the foundation of my final leaving. But everyone had to understand that I had fulfilled the promise of return. That was the whole idea of the resurrection. And the resurrection was like the stimulating event that my disciples needed to really go forth. I could speak with them several times. I told them what I needed them to do. And they realized that they were talking to a miracle form. A miracle had taken place. There was no doubt in their minds. And that idea and concept totally transformed all of them to go forth and do what I needed them to do.
John describes a miraculous catch of fish, and you were preparing breakfast on the shore. Did this event happen? And if so, could you please describe it?
The event is exaggerated. I did meet them on the shore, and they were fishing. I had them catch fish, but it was not like this huge amount of number. There were only 3 or 4 of them present. And they did catch enough fish to serve that small group. So I had them continue fishing, and they caught some fish. It is not the great miracle that is portrayed in the Gospels, but it did take place because I had to prove to them that I could eat and be normal. And I needed the fish so that we had some stable. It was very important that all of my followers understood that I truly had returned in full body form.
As an aside, for people who are first time joining us, you've spoken twice about Jesus's wife. Could you tell us a little bit about his wife and his children?
I lived a normal life for roughly 30 years. I married, I had 5 children, and I had one of my daughter was ill and passed, so that I understood totally what grief was for a human. But I wrote, there was nothing written about that period of my life. I did not want people to believe that I was special at that point. I wanted to understand all of the capabilities of humans, what they go through, the grief they feel, the love. I especially wanted to understand human love by feeling it for myself. So I married and had children and raised a normal family. At the time that I entered my ministries, I left my family for the ministries. I did not tell anyone that I was married because I feared the Romans would harm them. So that is why the Gospels did not present the fact that I was truly married, but I was. But it was a secret that had to be kept for the protection of my family.
Why did you choose Paul, a person who had persecuted the Christians, to appear to?
This was Paul's life plan. I needed an example of resurrection of the life of a human. And by that, I mean that a human is capable of totally changing his life. Paul served the Jewish faith. He was highly educated. He knew exactly all of the ins and outs of the Jewish faith. He could speak multiple languages. I knew that I needed someone that could use all of those intellectual abilities. So Paul was sent back. His early life was to become a Jewish priest and educate himself. I came to him and changed his life. Paul is the great example of forgiveness and how an individual can totally change to serve God. He did a magnificent job of writing letters, of telling others of my presence and of the miracle that he saw. So Paul's life plan was very specific, and he served it well.
In Paul's letter to the Corinthians, written approximately 20 years after the resurrection, he mentions Jesus appearing to about 500 people, but the event is not mentioned in the other four Gospels. Did you appear to a large crowd? And if so, would you please describe the event?
The size of the group is exaggerated. I wanted the disciples to bring together all of the individuals who had served me and followed me in life. There were not just 12 disciples. There were many, many other followers that helped bring people to me. And I wanted all of the people that had served me in life to see the miracle that I had performed. So I had the disciples bring together this group of people. There was maybe 200 at the most. But I did appear to the group of my followers so that they truly understood and truly knew that I had returned from the grave.
When you appear to the 11 at the Mount of Olives, it is written in Matthew that you gave them the Great Commission. What did you tell the disciples on that evening?
On the final evening that I was to be with them, I told them exactly what I needed them to do. But I had also told them this in all the other appearances. Whenever I appeared to those that had served me, I told them that they needed to carry out the words of the miracle that they were seeing, to tell others and to have others follow God and understand that by doing this, they would be joining me in heaven. So I told them that they had to go forth and continue to tell of the miracle, to tell of my life, and to tell of what happened after my death. I told them specifically that my resurrection, returning in body form, was the greatest miracle that God would ever do, and that they must tell others that the resurrection was a powerful tool to bring people to understand the great power of God.
It is also written that they saw you ascend into heaven. Is that true? And if so, were you in physical form or spiritual form?
I was in physical form. And I disappeared in front of them in physical form. But they did not see me ascend into heaven. They simply saw me fade away. And they assumed that that was an ascension into heaven. But I performed the great miracle of disappearing in physical form in front of them as a final proof.
During your appearances, did you tell your disciples that you were really God incarnate?
I told them that I had been sent back as Son of God, but that I was truly now with the energy of God. And that upon my death, the transformation of energies allowed me to do these things. And that they were witnessing the true power of God, not the power of the Son of God.
Father, is there anything else you would like to tell us about the events after the resurrection?
I would just like everyone listening to truly understand the scope of the miracle that took place. For approximately 6 weeks after my death on the cross, I performed miracles in appearing both in spirit, in light form, and in physical form. I even, from physical form, disappeared in front of my disciples in that final meeting. So they saw, I guess you would refer to it as the manipulations of the great energies of God. So the resurrection is the great proof. When I rose from the grave, that began truly the great movement of Christianity. Because at that point, they saw the true miracles that God was capable of. As Jesus, I performed miracles of healing, of bringing Lazarus back, of doing things that the people had never seen. But by returning from the grave, I did things that people had never ever even conceived of. So this new great miracle, this was like this ship that launched Christianity for the billions of people. So just know that what I speak of took place, and know of the true powers that God has.
Do you have a final message for us this evening?
I want each of you to tell the miracle that you are currently hearing. While you are not going to be blessed to see me appear in physical form, you are blessed by hearing my true words, of which I speak of the great miracle. So just know in your heart that God truly exists. And now you should know as well of the great miracles of which God is capable. The greatest miracle is heaven. And upon your passing, you will truly understand God's greatest miracle.
Thank you. We're going to turn our attention now to the Apostle Paul. One of the most striking events was when Jesus appeared to Saul of Tarsus, a devout, well-educated Jew and Pharisee who had persecuted Christians while he was traveling on the road to Damascus. We now know him as the Apostle Paul. Paul, thank you for joining us tonight. Would you begin by telling us about your life before Jesus appeared to you?
I was a devout Jew. I studied under the high priest. I was educated in multiple languages. I spoke fluent Greek, and I totally conformed to the role of the Pharisees. I was told of this man named Jesus, and that he was creating insurrection within the Jewish faith. I was told of miracles, so-called miracles that he had done, but I was told that most of it was exaggeration and lies. I was told that these Christians were going to be very dangerous for the Jewish faith because they would be pulling away and weakening the faith. And I believed all these things. I knew that they had crucified Jesus on the cross, and I was told that he wanted to be king of the Jews. I was traveling with two companions on the road to Damascus. He had been He had died probably a month earlier, and I witnessed this incredible miracle. No.
What did you know about Jesus?
I didn't really know much. I was told that he wanted to be king of the Jews. I was told that he had the ability, or supposedly had the ability, to heal others. And I was told that there were many people that were following him, and that his followers would weaken the Jewish faith. But in fact, I did not participate in his trial, and I was not there for his crucifixion. So I really did not know that much about him.
Could you please tell us about the appearance of Jesus?
We were traveling, the three of us were traveling to Damascus. We had been told that the possibility of the close followers of Jesus was that they were hiding in Damascus, and we were going to see if we could find them. The priests wanted to eliminate any of his followers that they could. All of a sudden, this light appears to the three of us. The light takes form into an individual. And this individual addresses me by name. And he tells me that he is the resurrected Jesus, and that I should go forth and tell others of seeing the miracle of the resurrection of his body. You could see the wound marks on his body. He was in physical form. It was not something that anyone had ever witnessed before. But he told me that I could serve great value to him, to God, and that I should go tell the disciples of what I had witnessed and be a strength for God, for the one God, and tell others of the miracle so that they would truly learn to know of God as well. The whole event lasted maybe 4 or 5 minutes. After he spoke to me, he disappeared in front of us. It was the most amazing thing I had ever seen, or anyone had ever, as far as I know, anyone had ever seen in their lives. I was shown a true miracle of the power of this man. And I contemplated what I would do, and I withdrew from the Pharisees, and I tried to live a simple life, telling others and writing others of what I had seen. Many people called me a liar. Many people would not believe, but I wrote letters. I tried my best to spread the words of God. And many of my letters did wound up as written gospel. So I did my best to serve God, but I was so blessed to be able to witness the incredible miracle.
How did you react to the appearance?
At first, I was physically weakened. When I first saw the light, I was scared. My men were scared. But then this individual emerged in this light, and we just stood there in amazement. Everyone realized that they were seeing something very special. When it was over, we actually were speechless. We did not know what to say. we asked whether the other people actually saw the same thing, because at first we thought perhaps it was a hallucination, but it was not. It was real. It took me a couple days of contemplation and guidance. I prayed to God for direction, and I received messages of what I should be doing. And after several days of contemplation, there was no doubt what I would be doing with the rest of my life.
Did the disciples accept you into their group?
They did not trust me in the beginning. Obviously, they knew what I had done in my past. And at first, they did not trust. But I told them what I had witnessed. And I told them that I wanted to join them in trying to tell of what I had seen as a witness. They slowly understood, and they accepted me into the circle, the inner circles of their growing faith. And I tried to work with them as best I could. I focused basically within the Jewish followers that were in the area. I traveled, I wrote letters, and I did all of the things. And when they saw how devout I was in trying to spread the words of the miracle, I was then truly accepted as being one of them.
How would you say that the appearance of Jesus changed your life?
It totally changed it. Everything that I did before, I realized that I had been wasting my life, and all I wanted to do was to serve this miracle, this image that I saw. I was one of the few that had the privilege of seeing the resurrected God. And I wanted all to know about that. Just the same as I would like all of your listeners to understand that I did truly witness this. There is no doubt that the resurrection of our Lord took place.
Do you have a final message for our listeners this evening?
I am truly an example of how knowledge can change your life. I saw the resurrected Jesus. The knowledge of what he did changed my life forever. You are hearing the words of miracles of people who actually physically saw the resurrected form of Jesus. Use this information to change your lives as well. Tell others of the miracle of hearing the words that you're hearing, and tell others that there is no doubt that God truly resurrected on that day.
Thank you, Paul. We will now speak to the disciple Thomas, known as Doubting Thomas. Thank you for joining us this evening. As a disciple, did you believe Jesus would return from the grave?
Jesus told us that he would return, but I always thought it was going to be like what he did for Lazarus, to have Lazarus return. When the days stretched out, I thought that he was never going to return. I heard what Mary had to say, but she was so deep in grief that I thought she had hallucinated. I thought she was seeing things that she wanted to see. Keep in mind, in those days, women, what they said, were not held in as high a regard as men. I thought the possibility that she may have had what you would refer to as a nervous breakdown. I thought that there was no way that this could have ever taken place. So I was so deep in grief that I just thought that I would never see our Lord again. I prayed to God that he would return. I did all of the things, but I never did truly believe that I would see him again.
You said that Jesus told you that he would return. What did you think he meant by that?
I thought that he would possibly return as a spirit, as a ghost. We did believe in ghosts in those days, and there were spirits. Those of us, we had seen forms that were angels. Many of us were psychic, so that we understood this something about spirit world. I thought that perhaps I would see him in a spirit form, but I never ever imagined that I would be seeing him in physical form.
Describe what took place when Jesus appeared to you after the resurrection.
We were in this locked room. The group of us closest who had known him best. And all of a sudden, this form appeared in front of us. And it took physical form, and we saw that it was our Lord. And it was truly what Mary had spoken of. And I was so overjoyed that I could see our Lord one more time, that I broke out in tears. They were tears of joy. I thought truly that he had permanently returned, because now I could see him. I could see the wounds. So it was the most miraculous event that ever took place in my life.
Was there any doubt he was in full physical form?
No, absolutely not. He reached out and he gave me a physical hug, and I could feel the warmth. I could feel the actual warmth of his body. I could feel his arms around me. There was absolutely no doubt that he was in physical form.
How did you react after his appearance?
I was in tears. There were tears of happiness, and there were tears of sorrow, because I thought when he allowed me to actually touch the wounds and to hold him, that he was back. But then he left again, and I knew that it was temporary, but that I was given this incredible miracle. But I was both elated and sad, because I knew that his return was truly not going to be permanent.
Do you have a message for our listeners this evening?
I would like everyone listening to understand why they have doubts. They have never been able to go through what we did. They never knew him in life. They only know of things that were written about him. There are many discrepancies in the stories about our Lord that would bring doubts. Many do not believe that such miracles can take place, but I can assure you that they did. I saw the resurrected body of Jesus. I touched it, I held it, I loved it, and I felt great grief when it went away once more. But everyone should no longer have doubts. My doubts were solved by, say, the physical being. I hope that I can alleviate some of your doubts by telling you what I saw, because I am speaking truth. So thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. It's a true honor, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Thomas. Perhaps one of the most interesting transitions to faith took place with James, the brother of Jesus. James, you knew Jesus all his life. What was your opinion of him?
He was a wonderful person. He was always smiling. He was happy. He lived a good life. I had traveled with him several times. I thought that I truly knew him. He was always very special, but he lived this normal life. So while I basically knew him, he wasn't healing. He was just being this good person. When I was not actively participating in his ministries. I had my family, and we were raising the children and just trying to get a normal existence. People would tell me that my brother was doing these things, and I would say, it's impossible. I've known this man all my life, and he never did things like this previously. So I never physically saw him do things during his ministries. And when I saw him, I would ask him about him, and he would simply say, if it is what you believe. And I'm so sorry that I had doubts about this, but I truly did doubt it, that he was this special individual.
What did you think of Jesus when he began his ministries?
I knew that he had always believed in God. I knew he was a good person. But I just simply thought that he was pursuing the Jewish faith, that he was doing what he could do to bring people to the Jewish faith. So I guess it never really dawned on me what he was actually accomplishing. As I say, I was more isolated from him during that period, so I didn't really understand.
What did you think when Jesus performed miracles during his ministry?
I honestly didn't know what to think, but I didn't think it was possible that this individual that I grew up with was healing people, bringing people back from the grave. I knew that he had many people following him and believing that he was very, very special. But as I say, after you've known a person for 30 years and did not see any indication of this, it's very, very, very hard to believe. I guess maybe you could call me doubting, just as Thomas doubted.
Describe what happened when he appeared to you after his resurrection.
I knew that my mother had attended the crucifixion and had seen him die on the cross. I came to try to be with her, to try to help her, because I knew how deep in grief she was. And I met the other disciples and got to know them. And I was welcomed into this group. And we were together in this locked room because they still feared the Romans would find them. And all of a sudden, my brother appeared in the room in physical form. And he looked at me and smiled. And he said, "Brother, now do you believe?" And I was speechless. I was in tears of joy. I thought he had returned. I thought that he could do permanent miracles, which he did. But then he left us, and I had only got to see him in resurrected form that one time. But it totally changed my life. I knew now that I wanted to listen to what the others said of his words and his teachings. And I did my best to spread his words once I saw the miracle that he had returned.
So how exactly did his words change your life?
I went from an individual just simply living a normal existence to one who worked with the disciples. I became a leader of the church we established in Jerusalem. I tried to tell members of the Jewish faith what I had witnessed, and I tried to spread the words that the disciples told me he had spoken. But mostly I reaffirmed the miracle that I had seen, that my brother had truly formed in front of me and had spoken with me after my mother saw him die on the cross. So my life totally changed, just the same as when Paul saw him, his life changed. When you see an individual that has died on the cross appear in front of you, it would change anyone's life.
Were you ever afraid that they were going to kill you through association?
Oh, absolutely. We all knew what risk we were taking. Many of the brother disciples were martyred and killed because of the words they were speaking. It was only when the Romans feared that it would have effects on the Jewish faith, really, that they let us carry on. But yes, we all knew we were facing death from the Romans. It was just a matter of time.
How did you protect your family as well as your brother's family during this time?
I never told anyone of my brother's family. He had told me when he started the ministries that it was important, it was kept a secret, that he might be alienating the Romans in the words that he was going to speak. And my family was in a secure location. So I tried to work with the Romans as best I could. And I made a point of not speaking against the powers of Rome. And by doing that, they did accept. And I think they believed that we were just trying to further the Jewish faith in many ways. But once I began to follow the words of my brother, I stayed away from the presence of my family, and I never spoke with them about them in public, or really to anyone that I didn't deeply trust.
Could you share with us the name of Jesus's wife and children?
His wife's name were Toba, and his daughter's name in the past at 18 was Sarah. The youngest child was Luke, Ezekiel, Zechariah, and Seth. So he had, and all of his children, with the exception of the daughter, married and raised families on their own. And none of the family members ever joined the ministry because Jesus had told them, first of all, that they must always protect their families and remain safe.
Did any of your children ever join the ministries later on?
No, because I wanted them not to take the risk as well.
Do you have a message for our listeners this evening?
Yes. I want you to go and tell others of the miracle of the resurrection. I want you to try to spread the words that you hear tonight, because we are speaking the truth. Jesus truly rose from the grave. He existed. God is very real, and God is with you every day. So if you just simply follow those simple words and don't do anything that you do not want done to yourself, you will live a good life and you will enjoy the real miracle of God, which is heaven. So thank you. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, James. It must have been amazing to be the brother of Jesus.
Yeah, it must have. I can't. It's almost beyond comprehension what it was like to truly know him. Okay, great show, Elena. A lot of good
Sure
stuff.
was.
A lot of things you never heard before. It's an amazing world we live in, isn't it?
Sure is.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I don't know what we'll be doing next week, but it's going to be interesting. So,
Good night, everyone.
good night, and we'll see you next week, Elena. Okay, guys. truly, truly, truly interesting show. It's amazing what the martyrs really went through in those days. And thank you, Elena. We always appreciate all you do for us. We'll see you again next week. If you'd like to learn about the 30 years in the life of Jesus not mentioned in the Gospels, I wrote a book where we channeled 24 different spirits who knew Jesus during his life. The title of the book is Jesus, the Missing Years. It's available on Amazon or on my website, barrystrom.com. All of our shows are streamed on YouTube, as well as my personal Facebook page and in our Facebook groups. We're on YouTube. As I mentioned earlier, we have over 1,000 shows to see. You can also find our audios on Spotify, Apple Podcast, iTunes, Google Podcast, Alexa, many of the other platforms. So please join us each Friday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time when we bring you Pathways to Knowledge. I hope you've realized by now that the show is truly different and that we do many different things and that all of it is to the honor of God. So thank you so much for listening. We'll be back again next week. Have a blessed week, and thank you so much for joining us.